us like a signal if you can hear us or see us. I haven't seen anyone's typing.
We are live.
So in the previous sessions, we talked about like how daily small spending habits can turn into a big fortune, which is really that you save money, but you put the money into your investment, then it can grow over time. So today we want to address the topics of the mistakes in investing. I know that a lot of people, including myself, when we started investing, we made some mistakes. At that time, we didn't know it was mistakes, and then we suffer some financial losses. So today's session is we talk about what kind of mistakes we have made in the past and what we learned from it, and also how you can avoid the typical investing mistakes so that would be the valuable takeaway for you, that then you avoid unnecessary financial losses.
The question is always what is necessary and what is unnecessary. I think some people they learn the best by doing. So learn by doing is very valuable because when it hurts, you learn more, right? And some people say if it doesn't hurt or if you just learn from books, then where's the lesson? And that's why a lot of people, or humanity in general, we are doomed to repeat and repeat and repeat same mistakes again and again. So history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes in a way. So we kind of go through cycles. And Warren Buffett said once, there's two very important investment rules. So if you want to be serious about investing, number one, never lose money. And number two, don't forget rule number one.
Rule number one.
Yeah. So it sounds very easy, but it's not. So that's about Warren Buffett, right? And you may also know there's several paths of how people can learn. The smart path, whereby maybe the learning, you have to be more imaginative to apply the lessons. The smart path is to learn from other people's mistakes and experiences. So you don't have to go through it yourself. But if you have kids, or if you know in your family, or even yourself, you may remember there's always people tell you, don't do this, don't do that. And of course, we are smarter than that. We want to find out for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So that's the big human challenge here. And the expensive path, that's the second path, right? The expensive path is to make the mistakes yourself and learn from these afterwards. So now you can actually supercharge your mistakes, fail forward fast, or you kind of combine lessons from other people and try to be smarter than the average. And then that's maybe where you have to start. So be aware if you invest, there is big mistakes that you can make. And today we're going to talk about what kind of mistakes can happen and how to prevent them.
So
it's save you some money.
Yep. So it's for those people who want to learn from other people's mistakes and then avoid yourself. So try not to make the same mistakes yourself.
Correct. I trust we are talking to a very smart audience here that is tuning in tonight to actually learn from other people's mistakes. Okay. And in my career, I have helped more than 100 millionaires with their money. So it doesn't mean once you have money, you are safe from making mistakes. So there's people that they are very wealthy. They still have some issues with that. Other people inherit a lot of money. That's even more dangerous because you have never walked the path of managing money. And if you suddenly have a lot, similar like people that win the lottery, it's extremely likely that mistakes happen. And therefore, people like this maybe need some help on some parts, right? But you can learn a lot yourself. And at the end, it's cheaper and more efficient and faster to stick with the smart path and listen to stories, learn from others' mistakes. You cannot possibly live long enough to make all the mistakes that you can do by yourself first.
Or you cannot possibly be rich enough to make all the mistakes by losing all the money.
Yeah, it's a matter of tuition, right? So you
Yeah.
actually pay tuition fee for lessons to be learned, and
What is
your
the
choice.
what is the biggest tuition fees that you have paid in the past?
Oh, okay. I think it was with New Economy Boom. In terms of net wealth, I was very, very lucky, so to say, that I invested some money in 1999, 2000. So it's a long time ago, 22 years now. Oh my gosh, I feel old. And everything seemed to be so easy. Everything that had a .com to its name was super good. Somehow it's almost dangerous to say that, but it feels a little bit like these days everything around crypto or like Tesla or things like it feels very bubbly, but of course there could be a future to it. Back then everything with the internet was great, and we bought some shares together with a friend, and these shares went from like $5 to $60, $70. So it was tremendous. And I say that first because I felt very smart and happy that I was invested in these companies. And luckily, I sold a little bit. I was happy to sell a little bit. I think I sold about maybe 20% of the whole thing. And I bought a car. I started to rent an apartment. I was 19 years old. And I felt I reinvented the wheel. And then boom, came the crash, right? And I learned like I'm not diversified enough, and nothing grows into the sky, right? So yeah, you may be right sometimes, you may be right a longer time, but eventually if you don't understand what it's behind it, or you think you understand, and it's not, you might still fall back. So at the end, I think I lost quite a lot of money back then when I was 21 years old.
Okay, if you sold 20%, you can buy a car and then move out, and then imagine all the other money you have lost. Okay.
Yeah, correct. But then I think that was like tuition, and I learned from that. And in 2008 and 9, I still lost some money, but not as much anymore. And then actually during the Corona time now, I was more relaxed. Did other mistakes, but still it was much more relaxed than the last sell-off or crisis. I think it's also a matter of experience eventually. So if you go through these cycles once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, every time it comes again, if you have a plan and you know how to handle it, maybe some people, I know people that are very happy when things get cheaper. It's like in January after Christmas when all the supermarkets and shopping malls, they have all the toys on sale. People will be very happy, right? Everything gets cheaper. So that's where you should buy. That's not when you should sell. And one mistake is usually this fear and greed mentality, the herding thing. If everything goes up, you also have to jump on the board, right? And if people start to sell, you also have to sell out. If you do this herding thing, it's not a smart long-term plan for investments, right?
Right. And then so you mentioned that the mistake you made is like when the market is very good, then you think you made it, you know everything, but
yeah. I mean, you feel smart, and maybe the mistake I tag it as the mistake can be called, or the lesson to be learned can be called confusing a bull market with being smart. Do not confuse the bull market that this is because of you are smart. It's simply, it might be whatever, right? The universe, it goes up and you were lucky enough to be part of that. It's more like a gamble eventually. And of course, at the moment, also a lot of things are up. So a lot of people might feel very smart now and superior to others. And I don't know how long this is going to last.
I heard the saying that in bull market, everybody is a financial expert.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, that's usually a warning signal. There are some people, they say if your hairdresser starts to give you stock market tips, or if your taxi drivers start to talk about Bitcoin or all these things, right? You should be alert that these are usually the last people that buy in, right? And a lot of times it's all about finding the next guy to buy it from you. So the people that are in the first, they can sell it to the next one at a higher price. Then other people buy it, they want to sell it again more expensive. So if the whole thing is about just keep selling it more expensive, you always need to find the next guy that buys it from you at a higher price.
Yeah.
Right. And if there is no more people to buy at the end, that's where usually the bubble bursts.
And what do you think are the most typical like mistakes a newbie in investing are
Newbie,
making?
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I can start maybe the most simple one to actually prevent is not having a plan. People start investing, but they don't have a plan. So they have some money, and then they hear maybe a friend say you should buy this stock or that stock, and then they put everything in that one stock. And other than that, there is no plan. So there's no, sounds boring, right? Diversification or long-term plan, exit strategy, when to go out, right? It's just people usually tell each other when to get on the train, but nobody calls them when they should leave the train or jump off again. So have a plan. If you get started with investments, have a wealth plan, an investment plan, and try to plan whatever you do with money with your life goals, your lifestyle, and so on, and not just dump money here and there randomly. Then another thing very related to that is not managing liquidity. So people, let's say your friend come and say you have to buy this stock, and then you have maybe $10,000 cash on the side. Oh, I put all the 10,000 into one thing. And then you realize, oh my God, I have to pay the bills for the dentist or something. Something more expensive comes up, and you don't have an emergency fund, but now all your money is in this stock, and maybe the stock suddenly loses 20, 30%, and then you have to sell because you forgot to have an emergency fund. Yeah, so that's another thing. People don't plan for liquidity. A third one, it's maybe a luxury issue I have seen a lot with young professional people. When the income goes up and you have a little bit savings, people are getting very interested to buy a house. And of course, it's great to buy real estate, having your own place. But then what happens is the usual approach is the person who wants to buy real estate goes to the bank. And the question is, how much house can I buy?
What is the maximum price of the house I can afford?
Yeah, or how much mortgage can you give to me? And the banker will look at the salary and the statements and say, oh, Mr. X, I see you with your salary, we can give you 1 million mortgage or whatever, right? And then the people think, oh, cool, with this I can buy a house, 1.4 million. And because I have some savings, they put everything in that. And the mistake is called to buy too much house. So later they figure suddenly, oh, all my money is now locked up in my house. Instead of, if they just buy the house 30% or 50% cheaper with half the mortgage, they would have a liquid investment portfolio or cash on the side. They would have the mortgage plus the house, and they have much more flexibility. So let's say another emergency could be suddenly you need to renovate something in your house, or you have water leakage, you have a heater issue. In some places you need air conditions or other updates. Well, where is the cash? Again, it's like an emergency fund setup. And if you buy too much house, you could be overstretched. And a lot of people do that. And then later, because of this, they have mortgage kind of obligations that bind them for maybe 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And they have to keep paying that before they can do anything else. And then because of that mistake, it's like a lot of people don't even know it's a mistake, but they kind of lock themselves up. And mortgage comes from French. It's a word that origins in France. Mort means death. Yeah. It's the death, and the gitch is actually the pledge. So mortgage is the death pledge. Okay. And mortgages originally were given out to people to actually, it's like selling your soul. You have to work for me now for life. I give you this loan, but you actually belong to me now, right? So a mortgage, I think this word is very special. And if you buy
I
too much
see.
house, you actually pledge your life to a bank to pay off the
But
house.
touching on the buying a house or buying apartment, it's very interesting that I think most people, I mean, including me in the past, that they just think, oh, what is the most expensive house or what is the most expensive apartment I can afford? And then the banker will tell you, yes, you can have like 1,800,000, 2 million loan. And then you will feel like, oh, great. Then I'm looking for that price range houses or apartments. I don't know why, like people just naturally think like this. What is the most expensive apartment I can afford? Rarely people think like, okay, I can afford 1 million, or I just buy 700,000. Oh, I can afford 700,000. I just buy 500,000. I don't have to overstretch, put everything into the house. This personally, I find is very interesting because I used to think like that, and I think most people also think like that.
It's also a herding kind of thing, right? If you are working in a certain position with certain colleagues and all your friends are doing the same, it's you stand out if you don't do it. So if later you say I just live in the small house, they might think something is wrong with you.
Yeah, that's weird.
Like why don't you've earned it, you deserve it, you should go for the big house. Right,
Yeah.
that's usually how people click, and then it's very difficult to be different because you will stand out, and people will wonder if something is wrong or if you have some issues, and so that's most often probably the excuse for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one other thing, you mentioned the 3 typical mistakes, which is quite valid. One of my friends, he plays this game with his other friends who are interested in investing. So if someone wants to invest in a company, this person has to explain to the rest for 5 minutes why he wants to invest in this company. And then by the end of the 5 minutes, if the others are not convinced, and then they should not invest. Instead of
I
like
like that.
read the
Yeah.
headline from like, I don't know, Yahoo Finance, or just read some news that was like, oh, this I should invest, and then analysis says that, and then they just rushed into doing that, but without really take time to think through or do the analysis. They do the 5 minutes game.
That's actually what happens in big organizations. So if you have CIO offices in big wealth management firms, including the firm I co-started in Singapore, we had weekly meetings, investment meetings, where all of us had to bring some ideas to the table, and it was open discussion. Everyone could challenge each other, and very rarely everyone had the same like result after that. But we knew if like 1 or 2 people were not fully convinced, maybe we wait, right? And then if all people chip in, then it's more likely for this idea to succeed if you talk single stocks. However, right, there's also people, they confuse investing with gambling. So it's very important to say that's another mistake. Investing is not gambling. So it's not like all on black, all on all chips here on 20, like 13 red or whatever. That should not be investing, because that's then again what people later are scared about when they hear people losing a lot of money. They say, I will never invest anymore. There are some people who got really burned, and then they completely want to forget about investing in stocks altogether, right? And that's also not good, right?
Yeah, not just gambling, but also investing is not trading.
Yeah, and then also, like when you discuss stuff with your friends, you get challenged on certain things. So let's say you talk about the price earning ratio, for instance. You say, oh, this has a super low PE number. The price earning, that means like the price you pay for every dollar of earnings. If it's low, it looks attractive, but it could be that low because the company is not growing, or the company is shrinking, or there's new competitors coming in. So it could be a very bad sign. And if the PE is very high, the price earning ratio is high, it means the company is growing. There's a lot of future revenue eventually coming in. So you cannot just go by one number. So understand the investment. And if you buy something for a great dividend, but the company is actually paying more capital out than they earn cash, then it's also not a healthy thing. So there's all these different things. And also gambling, to go back to that, right? Stay away from frauds. There is people out there. In every country, you have the fraudsters. They have very, very good sounding investment proposals. In Asia, like 2-3 years ago, there were these people with a gold scheme. They say, I sell you some gold, but you pay me a little bit more today, and then later I give you guaranteed how much. And by the time, like 2 years later, they disappeared. Bernie Madoff in the US was another example. He simply faked all his statements. And that was also something like people only realized when they wanted to take the money out that that it's gone. Oh yeah, then the wise said getting married.
What do you think? Do you think getting married is also considered as investment?
It is a long-term life decision, and if done well, it's the best decision ever. And if done well, it's two people, and you see what. Just put it like I bring a very extravagant example now for that. Jeff Bezos, his wife divorced, right? So if she would not have divorced him, he would still be the richest man on the planet, because now his ex-wife has half of the money.
But that I have to say that I read articles that without his ex-wife, Jeff Bezos would not have Amazon today.
So it's a teamwork. So if you find the right partner and you work together on something amazing, then of course it's a great investment. But I wouldn't look at marriage too much as an investment.
So next one is being too greedy makes exit.
Yes. So if you are too greedy, you will be very easy to jump on these frauds and all these promising things that are too good to be true. So the best thing is actually you should invest into financial education. You should invest your time to read a book, invest your time to read blogs, listen to podcasts, things like that, to hear real life stories, and talk about money with your friends. Then you will learn more what they feel, what they think, and so on. So financial education is super important, exchanging ideas. And also, maybe even though I'm coming from that industry originally, placing too much trust in so-called financial experts can sometimes be a bad thing, right? So we say, like, I studied economics, and they say an economist is an expert who will know tomorrow why the things he predicted yesterday didn't happen today. So it's a little bit like
he will have the explanation for that.
Yes, he can explain everything that happened, but you don't want to have a history book, right? You want to know what to do now. So it's sometimes a little bit. It's not helpful to say that.
Yeah.
What comes from that side, and
I do agree with your point that financial education is very important. So do not blindly rely on other people to manage your money, or not just money, everything related to you. So if you are the person who bear the consequence when it's mismanaged, then you have to understand what's going on the other side. Yeah, even though the other person managed your money, but you have to understand how they manage it, at least on a higher level. So that's so I wrote an article on this, like my rich journey with a financial advisor. I'm sure that some of the products are very good, but it's just not suitable for us. So
I think that's the art. If you're a financial advisor, it's an art to understand your client from a risk-return perspective, from a knowledge perspective, and then provide the client with the right solutions and make the whole thing work. And not just for 1 year, but for many years. That's the art. And if you can do that well, then you're a good financial advisor.
Let's come back to the investing mistake. So you mentioned that financial education, definitely it's important. You need to understand it, read books, talk with your friends, families about money, and then have a big plan. And then liquidity, diversification. What are some other things that you think people should pay attention to?
Well, emotions are not a good, how to say, like driver for your decisions. So that whole thing goes under behavioral finance. It has something to do again with following your colleagues with the big house or catching up with the Joneses. But it could also be like being hurt driven and being emotional driven instead of rationally thinking about what's going on. So there you have to have the ability to make 1 or 2 steps backwards to really decouple yourself from the emotional part, right? So that you're not just a result of your emotions, but you stick to your plan. That's the main point, to stick to your plan. So understanding yourself enough is super crucial. A lot of people don't care too much about that. In investing, your biggest enemy is actually yourself. And if you can manage yourself and understand what motivates you and how you are driven, this is already a superpower that brings you very far ahead of other people. And another thing is also with emotions, if you don't have a clear strategy, things happen. There will be a crash again. There will be like greedy periods. If you do not have a strategy, you didn't think about what would you do if this and that happens, then it will be very tempting if something happens to take action. But if you have a plan and say, okay, my plan is like this, if certain things happen, I will maybe do this and that. If you line it out and so-called shit hits the fan, then you have a rule book that you prepared for these situations. And if you stick to it, you will fare much better than if you're just guided by emotions in such moments.
Okay, so to summarize, I think we talk about most of the common investing mistakes is a result of not having a plan, not having overall strategy, not understanding your personal situation and your money, and then rushed into it. So before that, so for the audience here, just educate yourself first and understand your overall personal financial situation, and do not stretch buying too much houses, spending too much money on things that you don't need.
Yeah. Yeah, if the stock market does something different than you thought it should do, it most likely it's not the stock market that's wrong, but you got to do some homework and understand what happened and what I'm going to do or what I'm not going to do, right? And there again, like a lot of people, they suffer lack of patience. They cannot wait for things to normalize. This the last crisis, the last sell-off in 2020 was the fastest I've ever seen. It went down in like 1 month and up again in 1 to 2 months. It was so incredibly fast. Things in the past did not go that quick. We might see longer like sell-offs again. Yeah, don't confuse past returns with future returns. So if you see something always go higher and higher and higher, you cannot just extrapolate that chart and say, oh yeah, investing is easy. So yeah, understand a little bit these relations, and if you handle yourself well and ride through these waves, through the capitalistic seas, you will become a good sailor in the world of investing.
Oh, I like the last sentence, to sail across the ocean.
Sail the seas, yes.
Yeah, sail the sea.
Full of waves.
Full of waves. Okay, then that brings the end of today's session. And thank you for those who have participated today. And if you're watching this on replay, I hope you also can learn something from our conversations today. And the next time we will be, when is the next session? Same day, same time.
Next
Wednesday,
week. Yeah, next week. Mm-hmm.
Next Wednesday at 6 p.m. CET. And then the topics, let's say, what are we going to talk about next time? Any topics that you guys are interested? Then you can also leave in the comments. We can incorporate that.
Thank you, Dan the Wise.
Yeah, I hope this session
Thank
brings
you,
some value.
Rainmaker.
Okay, next
Yeah,
time we're
please.
going to talk about debunking the myth about investing. I will talk a little bit more about investing. Okay, bye-bye, guys.
Financial Mythbuster. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.